Welcome to Real Life in 5-ish. We're giving you a little bit more than 5 minutes as we walk through how to get out of your faith funk. This is episode 3. Hopefully you've watched the first 2. I'm reminded of this story of people that drive in Canada. There are places that are far remote, away from everybody, and they say these things on signs. They say, choose your ruts carefully, you'll be in them a long time. Because what happens is you have a car that drives down a dirt road and then it freezes and those ruts get deeper and deeper over the years and you get stuck in one you can't get out. For many of us over the last 18 months, 2 years, you've kind of felt that way. You've been trying to follow Jesus, but you're stuck in a rut. You went through COVID, you're stuck in a rut with your faith, and you're looking for anything to jumpstart your faith. Maybe you've scrolled through Amazon looking for new books on self-help or inspiration or Christian living. You're just trying to figure out, what can I do? We're giving you 5 things that the first church did to help them grow out of their faith funk and to grow and thrive as followers of Jesus. The first one was we gather purposefully. We actually get together. The second one is we connect deeply. And now we're going to talk about a third one, which we read about in Acts chapter 6. So the church has been growing and growing and growing. And now there's these apostles that are going around and teaching and teaching and teaching. But they're also doing all of the work in setting up and serving people and feeding people, because they would come from so far around to hear them teach that they needed to be helped. We read about this in Acts chapter 6. In those days, when the number of disciples was increasing, the Hellenistic Jews among them complained against the Hebraic Jews because their widows were being overlooked in the daily distribution of food. So you have one segment of Jewish people that were now Christ followers, Messianic Jews, and another group that were kind of at odds with each other because their needs weren't being met. That's a phrase that has been said in churches from day one. My needs aren't being met. Take a look here at what happens. So the 12, that's the 12 apostles, gathered all the disciples together and said, it would not be right for us to neglect the ministry of the Word of God in order to wait on tables. So you have these group of people that have been eyewitnesses to Jesus. And then you have all these other disciples or people that were following them as they followed Jesus. And you can't take the eyewitnesses and make them only do all of the meal prep and table cleaning and all of that, because they're the ones that are the eyewitnesses to what Jesus did. And they are the ones that were going to share with people what Jesus did. And they said, we got to divide this up, because some of you are really good at cooking and some of you are really good at cleaning. Some of you are really good at organizing and crowd control. Some of you are really good at listening to people and sitting down and hearing their problems and praying for them. And we have a unique skill set because we've actually seen Jesus, that we get to tell the stories about Jesus. And so they decided to divide it all up. And I love that phrase there. It would not be right for us to do all this ourselves. Verse 3, brothers and sisters, choose 7 men from among you who are known to be full of the Spirit and the wisdom, and we will turn this responsibility over to them, and we'll give our attention to prayer and the ministry of the Word. And so they began to divide this up amongst people, and beginning from there, incredible things started to happen. Take a look at verse 7, Acts chapter 6. So the Word of God spread. Now, that's kind of where I want to land today, because the third thing that you and I can do is we can begin to serve selflessly. We begin to stop saying, hey, what's in it for me? My needs aren't being met. I need you to spend more time with me. And the Word of God will spread when we all join in and serve selflessly. Can I just tell you, over COVID, many of us were able to continue to gather by doing that online or in groups of people in homes and in watch parties. Many of us were able to connect because of Zoom calls and meeting in parks. And a lot of us were able to do other elements that helped us out of our faith funk. But the one area where many of us were unable to do this one particular practice was serving selflessly, because our service was so tied to our location, like helping out at a church, helping out with worship or with setup, with tear down, helping out in the tech area, or watching kids or teaching kids or leading a small group for people. All of these areas kind of got shut down for a period of time. And it might just be the reason you're in your faith funk right now is because you weren't able to exercise that serving muscle. And when you don't do that, it atrophies and you begin to get selfish. So I want to ask you 3 questions to wrestle with. The first one is this: what are your gifts? What is it that you know that God has put on your heart and given you an ability to do that you would not have normally been able to do on your own? It might be to speak publicly. It might be able to perform music. It might be able to listen empathetically. It might be able to manage various things or organize, or you might have a gift of administration. But then from there, what are your passions? What is it that you just feel like you just have to do? I was talking with a guy just at lunch the other day, and he said, I could retire, but I just love what I get to do because it's serving so many people. What is that passion for you? And finally, look around and ask, what needs to be done? Sometimes it's not about sitting around waiting for the perfect serving opportunity to come along that we say, boy, that's everything I've always wanted. Sometimes it is, you know what? It needs to be done. In the early days at our Valencia campus and in the early days at our Simi campus, when we were just doing setup and tear down in those two particular locations, it was really simple just to say to people, listen, I know you got passions and gifts and all kinds of talents, but what we really need is you to show up at 5 o'clock and help us set up. And that was just what needed to be done. And people began to do that. And I saw people come to Christ through that experience. And lives began to change just by beginning to serve selflessly. So here's what I want to ask you to do. I want to ask you to gather purposefully, not just show up and receive content and leave, but talk to several people, engage. I want you to get into some kind of a group where you are connecting deeply, but I want you to find an area to serve. Maybe it's every week, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's during the week, but you find a place where you can give back to others and the Word of God will spread. And not only that, you'll get out of your faith funk.